Welcome to episode 12 of the Poker Face podcast, Last Looks.
In Last Looks, we meet Fred and Greta Finch, a married couple who run a funeral home in Florida. When Greta falls in with a visiting film crew and vows to leave, the idea of selling the business drives him to murder. With the means and opportunity to utterly dispose of his wife's remains, it looks like Fred might get away with it, but Charlie is on the case and her concern for the well-being of her new friend causes her to dig in a bit further. With Fred determined to stay in business until the end of his days, can Charlie find a way to bring him to justice, or will the mortician's crime go unpunished?
Hey, do you have COVID?
Me? No. I'll be honest with you, I haven't tested much recently.
Great. Want to be a corpse? Pays cash.
Sure, cash
Okay,
I like.
let's go.
Thanks.
Good afternoon, Ian. How are you?
I'm not too bad, Gerry. How are you? Doing anything for cash lately?
Shh.
That with the
One
tramp?
time I was desperate. No, listen. It's not what it looked like.
Indeed. Not what the paper said.
No, never.
Up to much this week?
Have I been or will I be?
Either way. It's just the same answer.
Same answer. Yeah, not much. Kids, stuff with the kids and that's it. What about yourself?
I had a week off.
You did, yes. What did you do?
Nothing.
Nothing. Yeah, good.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
My son had his last exam last week and he's heading into his penultimate year of high school now.
Putting no pressure on them, obviously.
Obviously not, no.
No.
Always other opportunities if one goes the wrong way.
Yeah.
And it's my wife's birthday today as we record, so I'm skipping out on that to do this. I hope the listeners appreciate
You're
that.
not skipping it at all, are you?
Well, I'm taking it for dinner later. Anyway, if people want to chastise us for our neglect of our wives or
Speak for yourself.
any other matters, they can get hold of us on social media. We're at Columbo Podcast on Twitter and X. Is that the same thing? Blue Sky, Facebook, all the usual, Instagram. You get show notes at columbopodcast.com, and every episode, including this one, is available 1 week ago or 1 week early on our YouTube channel, Columbo Podcast Productions, where we would appreciate if you could like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to be reminded every time a new show pops up.
Let's crack on.
It's a very sort of Columbo style opening, isn't it? With the stylized music and then the angled shot of the old property. And
The angled shot, come on, Ian. A Dutch angle, it's called.
is it called that?
That's what it's called. Yeah, it's a large rural house.
Yes, it's got a sign outside saying it's the Finch and Sons funeral home, and a car that looks to me a bit like Charlie's pulls up just into the corner of the shot.
Mm-hmm. I enjoyed how we're introduced to this. So you've got this very tense, pulsating score. It reminded me very much of the Dirty Harry movie. You've not even seen it, have you? You've seen it?
I've heard of Dirty Harry.
Yeah, okay. So it's got that, it has that 70s cop, maybe.
I mean, everything about it's 70s, isn't it?
Very much so.
The outfit the woman's wearing when she comes out the car.
And even, I think, the film stock, it looked as if it's dated.
Yes, probably quite deliberate.
Yeah. Do you know much about Dutch angles? It sounds vaguely sexual.
It does a little bit. Is that the way you lift the covers when you've done a Dutch oven?
No.
A completely different thing.
I've said this before, I'm sure. Every time I say that phrase, vaguely sexual, I want that to be an album.
Vaguely sexual.
Or even maybe my band, but definitely an album.
It sounds like a David Bowie one.
Or when I do my stand-up routine, my world tour, or certainly national tour.
That's the name of your tour.
It's going to be, my tour will be called Vaguely Sexual. If anyone wants to use it, drop me a line.
Do a podcast called that.
That's a good idea, isn't it?
There's so many opportunities there.
Yeah. Okay. I think we generally are, mind you, aren't we?
Most weeks.
Anyhow. Yeah, so this 70s setting, and a very 70s woman steps out of the car that you mentioned. She's wearing 70s clothes, she's got a 70s afro, and she picks the lock of this house, an imposing large house, a funeral parlour, before gaining entry. She creeps inside, takes some photos, as we hear a woman arrange a suspicious sounding meeting.
Yes, there's an argument between what appears to be a husband and wife.
Yeah.
And the husband ends up murdering the wife before advancing on the girl we saw entering with the camera.
It's worth talking about the argument, I think.
So you go.
You've got the husband who's the undertaker.
Yes.
And his wife, that's who's who's fighting with each other. And he is not happy that she didn't get a good deal for both. I think he holds up a bag of brains,
Right.
and then later on talks about not getting enough for the wrists.
Very specific.
Yeah. Everyone, there's a high demand, a good wrist.
No doubt.
On the black market, in the dark web. You can
For
go and buy.
transplants after overuse.
Yeah. Yes. He accuses her of holding out and that the person she's doing the business with may be more than just a business acquaintance. And I think...
the age-old...
Yeah. She takes some pleasure in admitting that, yes, that is the case, and refers to him as a weak, worthless little worm, which...
Good alliteration.
This whole scene obviously resonates with the main characters, or the main character in this week's episode.
Yes, it's almost like for like.
He is infuriated so much that he picks up a poker and caves her head in, causing blood splatter to go everywhere. And we see the younger woman who'd crept in. She gets this on film, but is noticed by the Undertaker, who strides over to her as she's cowering now in a corner.
It turns out, however, that this is not the setup for our episode.
No, it's a good old-fashioned fake-out. It's a trope, isn't it,
Yes.
of this being a movie. Although, we have to say, he doesn't say cut. That's normally what happens.
No.
He says reset. He whispers reset, or says it.
Yeah, and he thinks the Undertaker's missed his mark. So he's
Yeah.
not in shot, maybe, or not properly in shot.
The place is then very efficiently restored for another take, specifically to replace bloodied items. And we see a crew member ask another middle-aged woman who she is with.
Before that, though, I had a note that I wanted to make that I thought was really nice. So as soon as they stop filming, we then go to a shot of, from behind the director's chair, of the crew setup and then the stage. And you can imagine if you're actually in that room, there's actually a second one of those behind the camera that we're seeing.
Yes.
So it's almost iterative through from the poker face set through to the movie set through to the actual stage. And I thought that was really quite nicely done. Yes, and as you say, this middle-aged woman, who we will come to learn is Greta. She is there and not with makeup or wardrobe. She explains her husband owns the funeral home.
Yeah, I think she sort of laughs, giggles at the notion. I think she would like to be part of the crew that this other woman assumed that she was.
And the other woman's attitude changes very quickly when she realises it's not part of the team.
Yes.
She's told not to touch anything.
Also, it's interesting, Greta tells the crew member that this is her husband's funeral home that they're in. So she doesn't say this is ours, it's his.
Indeed.
Meanwhile, the husband, Fred Finch, is continuing his business in the basement while listening to We'll Meet Again on a custom-made record.
Yes.
It can't just be me. It's not just me, but this type of oldie music is inherently creepy, isn't it? You can
Especially with the record player soundtrack of its own.
Sometimes skipping itself as well and creaking. Yeah, it's quite often used, but it's effective.
Yeah, and as he works on a corpse, we see members of the film crew wander into his workshop chatting about the movie being set in 1973 because in the 21st century it's too easy to solve murders with iPhones and everything.
Yes. I often think, and I'm sure I've discussed it with you off mic, how easy it must have been to be a criminal, even back in the 60s, let's say. But you look back even further and you think like Old West bank robbers.
Yep.
You rocked up with a bandana over your mouth, pulled out a gun, give me your cash. Now, in fairness, the stakes were a little bit higher. You probably would have been hung or whatever it is for that back then. But the chances surely have been caught. And even going back now, I'm looking at, say, crimes in the UK in the 60s, bank robberies themselves.
Sure.
Alarm systems were nothing more than, a bell. There was no DNA to speak of. There was no CCTV.
Even fingerprinting wasn't.
Exactly. It wasn't, you put a pair of gloves on and you were fine. So, if you couldn't be a good criminal back then, we're not even talking murder.
It must be a great sense of achievement for the modern criminal who can overcome these technological advances.
Yeah. I wouldn't even attempt it now because I think they're just stacked.
It's not your moral code that's preventing you from committing crimes. It's the fact you were going to get caught.
There's lots of crimes. I reckon I could be a bank robber if I thought I would get, but I don't think there's any chance of getting away with it these days. They're very small.
No. And the money you stole wouldn't have been spilled with purple ink over everywhere else.
Yeah.
These two crew members that we were talking about are told by Fred that his area is off limits, and he sends them on their way before the power cuts.
So he storms up to... Now this, I suppose it's a sort of living room, but also it's used as the service area for funerals. There's a sort of altar and what have you.
Yeah.
So yeah, he storms up to find out what is going on, but is told to be quiet as it's a live set after the sparks have fixed a blown fuse. And he watches a repeat of the earlier murder scene with a sneer and makes the point that ashes are actually referred to as remains.
Yes, they're not ashes, they're bone fragments ground into the consistency of ashes.
When filming stops, he complains to Greta that they are ruining the place, but she acts like a movie pro and assures him that Dan, the location manager, says things will be fine, everyone will get put back together again.
She identifies Dan by referring to him as the man in the hat and mullet, which is quite convenient, and is clearly enamoured by the whole thing. You mentioned it in the previous scene, she clearly is almost head over heels for this movie business that's going on.
Yeah, it's not just that. I think it's anything that... It's a very mundane, it's a very solemn lifestyle that they've got, and anything out of the ordinary, anything different is obviously going to energise you, isn't it?
We'll hear her talking about that a wee bit later on.
I think she talks about the activity, the secret language that they all use.
Yeah.
But he is more concerned that she isn't working on the Hoppin' Stammer makeup job. So that must be the body we've seen downstairs.
Yes.
And reminds her that her life is about death, not a movie fantasy land.
She tells him, however, on the contrary almost, that this shoot that they've allowed will get them financially through the next month, and she needed something alive.
So you don't really get the feeling but that they're about to go out of business.
Well, she says they're short of money.
Yeah, she does say this, but it's never really...
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fact it's a failing business is maybe not...
Yeah, like 1 month away from ruin.
Potentially.
Yeah. He then heads outside and moans to Dan about the mess before seeing the matriarch and her biker family pull up. That's the Hoppensteimers, yeah. And they're surprised to see the activity and let him know that Greta did not call about postponing for a day.
We cut quickly to the workshop where Greta admits that she forgot to let them know and gets another sermon from Fred.
Yeah, about how they are there to provide a temple to the dead. This finally does it for her, who, after a nervy start, decides to tell him she wants a divorce.
My cosmetology license can transfer over.
Miami?
I don't want to hurt you. I just want to take my half and go.
Your half.
I know. You probably can't afford to buy me out. I've spoken to the realtor whose aunt we did last month, and he's already found us a really good offer.
Let's have a baby. A baby would bring life into this place. That's what you want. And he would grow up to be our child, and he would take over this place when I die, a fourth generation keeping the fire going.
I am not going to trap a baby too in this depressing, haunted shithole.
You think I trapped you?
I don't know. I mean, when we got married, I was so young. So yeah, I feel trapped. But I think you're trapped here too. Mostly maybe with all these ghosts. You should get out.
Out?
Yeah.
I don't understand. Out. There is no out.
Well, there is for me.
What about sleepwalk?
Fred, I hate sleepwalk.
Now, Fred is in no way a sympathetic character. He's a creepy, creepy man. But her springing that on him like, oh, I went and spoke to someone about selling the business. He's very passionate, and it's a family business.
Yeah.
There are ways of approaching...
Yeah, she's backed him into a corner here a little bit.
She's asking for it, I think that's what you said.
No, that's not what I said at all. No. We now see Fred gather some inspiration.
Yeah, back upstairs, he watches take after take of the fictional murder, which now not only, as I say, resonates, but provides a blueprint for murder.
I see what you did there, yeah. Later on, we then see the crew finish undressing the set as a drunken Greta stumbles through the front door.
Yeah, we should say that they decide to clean the rest of the blood splatter in the morning.
Yeah, they leave some of it, yeah.
Yeah, so she's a bit tipsy and laughs at his request to talk as she heads up to bed.
Yeah, she says, no. No.
He is then told by one of the remaining crew that they will be gone by 7 a.m. and at that point the place will be scrubbed clean.
He then sends Greta a text that didn't ring true to me.
He asks her not to leave and she immediately responds by sending a picture of her partially packed bags.
It's the way he wrote it. He wrote PLZ for please.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem like the demographic who would be shortening please to please.
Well, I don't know. Everyone gets lazy, don't they?
Please don't go. And yeah, as you say, she sends back her image for half-packed bag. And do you think he's doing that because he doesn't want her to go or because he's doing a setup for later?
I think he doesn't want her to go.
Okay.
Initially, I thought this was what sealed their fate, but there's another scene which I think does.
Okay.
So upstairs, Greta is in the shower and butchering the not too subtle ring my bell as Fred enters and takes the bags.
There's no evidence she even has a bell.
No. I have to say, and I don't know if it's deliberate or not, that this song has now, it's up there with Volare and I Saw the Light from Columbo in terms of being irritating. I can't get it out of my head and it's just, it's horrible. It's
a genuine earworm.
Some of your earworms can be fine, but I don't know, this one just...
It's the bit that she has in her ringtone later that sort of sequence. We'll get to that. Anyway, she comes out of the shower in a dressing gown to find that her half-packed bags are now missing.
And so she wanders downstairs to find them on the fireplace mantelpiece.
She's oddly unsuspicious about this.
Well,
she says, there you are, as if that's
drunk.
a perfectly normal thing to happen.
She's drunk.
You think that's all it is?
Well, yeah, she's not thinking clearly, is she? Before life imitates art, and she comes to the same end as the fictional Undertaker's wife.
I thought it was quite surprising that the pokers they were using did have the capacity to kill somebody.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
You would think normally that would be a rubber.
Yeah. You wouldn't like to take any
Yeah.
chances.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Next one.
Anyway.
Down in the basement, Fred puts her in a coffin before using
Cardboard looking coffin.
Yeah, well, that's what you...
I think that's right. Yeah, I was going to... Easier to cremate.
Before using a metal detector to remove an electric toothbrush from her bags. There's lots of points that in this episode reminded me of Ashes to Ashes, the Columbo episode.
Well, I've got that note at the end in the trivia section, but yes.
And then sending them with his dead wife into the flaming oven. He then empties her remains into the prop urn in the living room set. So, yes, that was for the movie.
And we skip ahead to the morning where he watches her leave with the film crew in the urn.
As Sleepwalk plays, yeah.
We then see him in the basement pressing a record.
Yes.
And we hear Sleepwalk playing as he takes that back upstairs and then puts it on his...
Yeah, I mean, it's a personalised vinyl off Sleepwalk.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's playing already while he's still pressing it. We can still hear it.
And after the last of the crew leaves, he solemnly places this record on the turntable. And I think he seems to show a genuine sadness at his deed as the camera fades from the spinning turntable into Charlie's introduction this week.
Yes, on the beach. We hear her theme. It's time for our hero, and she is drinking cocktails and noting she's heard nothing from Hasp or the 5 families for a good 3 months.
Did you like what she was wearing?
I liked her hat, the 2 cans.
Yes. She has also swapped smoking for techno cotton candy vapes. Now, I said to you after watching last week's episode, we missed mentioning the fact that she has stopped smoking because in I think it was the second episode from the first season, Night Shift, she tried vapes and wasn't too impressed.
That's right, and it's the same flavour that she tried back then, I'm pretty sure. And she says here that no one knows whether vaping is healthier, but vice is the spice of life.
I like that, yes. She also references Hunter S. Thompson by mentioning that she might run for the sheriff of Aspen, but acknowledges the reference is lost on her listener, and we see why.
Yes, it's a young child with headphones in.
He looks about 7, yes.
Yeah, she says that's why we need to keep books in Florida libraries, which I thought was an interesting...
She makes a reference to some of the right-wingers banning certain titles.
Indeed. Her vape, however, is now out of batteries, so she has to head off.
Yeah, we see her coming out of a store and a car park. Car lot,
or something?
is it?
Publix.
Okay. She's got her batteries and she takes a blast of the newly invigorated device.
Yeah, before being uncomfortably pursued by a man in the car park.
As she well, at first she noticed him. I think he's standing there, arms folded. He's a big sort of looking chap with an impressive moustache.
I think she's concerned. Not concerned.
No, you would be concerned considering...
I'm not sure if concerned is the right word. Certainly apprehensive and a bit wary. No, wary, I think, is the word. I think your average person would be wary of an intimidating man staring at you. But I think if you're in the run from the mafia, you would be concerned, worried, frightened, she's in that
scared.
ballpark somewhere anyway.
Yes.
And although she does make it back to her car, he then knocks on the window with a message.
Yeah, fortunately, he's not a hitman.
No, he'd like to hire her car from her to use it on a movie that's set in 1973.
Now, maybe this is a bit of self-awareness here. Like we mentioned last week, she's driving a very distinctive car, so much so that people from the movie industry want to borrow it.
Yeah. So she calls it a 69 Plymouth, 67 Plymouth Barracuda.
Is it?
Whichever one she says is apparently wrong.
Is it?
Because I was reading up this week, focusing that I think she says 69, it's actually a 67.
Okay. Anyway, I mentioned this the other day. The Americans have this habit. It's a thing that you don't do here. People will refer to their car by the year.
Yeah.
No one does this here.
No.
If you say, what do you drive? You just say the make and model, and that's it. You don't say it's a 2000 whatever.
No.
Yes, it's just an American thing.
I think so.
Anyway, she finds out that they are happy to pay cash and she is happy to oblige.
We should say that this guy's name is Tommy.
Yes. Yeah.
Over at the funeral home, we realised that it was Charlie's car that we saw at the start of the episode. She's now on set and has been told that a CB radio is being installed into it. She mentions at this point Linda Mann's. I think it's an Out of the Blue reference, which is a movie. She tries a Dennis Hopper line on Tommy, who claims to be a fan but doesn't recognise the quote. I don't think she's convinced that he is a fan. No. I'm a huge fan, obviously. Are you? No, I don't know. I'll tell you what his best one was. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Sounds like a horror sequel. Yeah, it is horror sequel, yes. Yes, a new one. Easy Rider's good, but no, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. People might somebody say Blue Velvet and what have you, but no, it's definitely the second, the sequel. Anyhow, she wanders across the lawn and is handed a call sheet before being offered, as we heard at the top of the show, a role as a corpse on account of the original corpse having caught COVID. And so she finds herself lying and vaping in the coffin in the service room. Stitches across her throat. Yes. As the murder scenes take place again and again around her. And she's vaping in the coffin. I'm surprised that they have no problems with that. Yeah. In any case, from her vantage point, she sees a blood splatter on the netting above her, which is being used to protect the actual ceiling. Yes. We next find her at lunch. She's been invited to join the crew and Greta, who is describing her unusual job of making up the dead and her previous ambitions.
This is sounding creepy.
No, man, I get it. Caring about someone, even if they're gone, and want to give them a little bit of dignity, even if they'll never know it. I get it.
Yeah, but then life among the dead? What kind of life is that?
I get that too.
I actually went to cosmetology school thinking I'd move to Miami and work for a magazine or something. Like fashion shoots or what you guys do. But then my parents got in a car accident and that's how I met Fred. And then switched focus to mortuary stuff.
Wait, you mean your parents are buried here?
No, they were cremated. But yeah, Fred directed the funeral. I was devastated. 25, going on 18. I'd never been on my own. Just completely lost. And Fred was gentle. He really cared. He was just what I needed in that moment. I didn't think I was picking a path. But then you wake up, and it's too late for anything else.
Too late, shit. Too late. Girl, I know plenty of people in Miami doing commercial stuff if you ever need a hookup.
Really?
Okay, irregardless, you two want to get blackout wasted tonight? We do a hell of a banger.
Yes.
Greta, can I speak to you inside, please?
Cosmetology school. She should be in the space station. What's she doing messing about there?
Cosmetology.
Yeah.
Cosmetology.
All right.
Fred's a wrong'un.
I mean, it's just so wrong. So she's in a very, very vulnerable position. Her parents have died, and he's deciding to fire into the daughter or
The grieving daughter. Who's much younger than him.
Much younger, yes. He's just a very, very dubious individual. It's creepy.
Yes.
And it's not just his job. The way he talks, his cadence, he's just sinister.
Yeah, he's got something of the night about him.
A bit later, Charlie is initially ignored by Fred as she asks for the directions to the toilet, but manages to engage him when she talks about his business, and he tells her about all the different keepsakes that they offer.
He's particularly proud that they're the only funeral home in the southwest that can press remains into a vinyl record.
I mean, I'm thinking to myself here, can it be worthwhile, everything that's involved in doing that? How many people have a vinyl record player? I mean, apart from hipsters.
Well, they're more popular than, for example, audio cassettes. They've maintained their...
Yeah, but...
DJs have them.
It's a very small niche who would want that in the first place. Never mind people who've got...
how many must you have to sell to pay off the original investment?
Yeah, transporting it from...
But maybe this is an insight into the state of the business. I mean, he's had to try different things to...
Well, no, I think this is why the business is going down the tubes, because he's no idea where he should be investing his money.
Well, yeah.
Rather than marketing it in a traditional sense, he's importing German record pressing equipment. No wonder
he's not a businessman, is he?
He's not at all.
No. Charlie genuinely thinks that this is all kind of cool, but does urgently need to pee, as she says, and is given the directions that she requires.
We then cut to the crew beach party that night, and they drunkenly laugh as Greta insists that she doesn't want to be pressed into a record.
Or any kind of ornament.
No. I think Charlie, she tries to not play devil's advocate, but she says it's quite cool, a bit niche.
Greta is particularly upset that Fred has picked, and we heard them discuss this at the top of the episode, Sleepwalk by Santo and Johnny as the song that she'll be pressed into, and there's a relevance to that we'll mention at the end of the show.
Not just that, but he's already picked the mould and all that. So he's almost like planning for her or their death already.
She explains that she'd rather have Ring My Bell by Anita Ward.
Yes.
It says that you cannot dance to Sleepwalk, and Fred has never taken her dancing or, for that matter, rung her bell.
Oof. Charlie then suggests some hydration because Greta's getting a bit emotional, and we see her take a smoke as Greta gets Tommy to put his number into her phone and gives out her password. What was it?
I'm not sure.
1212.
Okay.
Her dog's date of birth, I think. Or, yeah.
Makes sense. We then hear Ring My Bell playing as Charlie takes Greta back up to the house.
So here's an obvious point. Charlie is... they've got no issues with the hero of the show, drunk and drug driving.
What drinking drugs is she taking? Do we see?
Oh, she was smoking. It's a joint.
Was it?
Oh, yeah.
You sure it wasn't just a cigarette?
They're passing it around. No, so she was taking a smoke and she was certainly drinking.
It could have been low alcohol beer.
Doubt it.
Okay.
Doubt it.
Charlie agrees to pick Greta up in the morning. She still wants to go to Miami and...
But declines to stay in or come into the house, certainly.
Indeed.
She's going to live, or she does live in her car.
Yeah, she'll sleep in the car as Greta heads inside, which is what we saw earlier on when she drunkenly argued or engaged with Fred.
Yeah, she promises that she will definitely be there in the morning and will take her wherever she wants to go, Miami, as you say. So, the next morning, she wakes up and uses her CB to again reference Linda Manns before...
kill all hippies.
Yeah, getting up and heading into the house. Now, all I could think of, I sometimes see this in movies and it gives me the... She has been smoking and drinking the night before and slept in her car.
Yep.
In the heat of Florida.
Uh-huh.
She didn't brush her teeth. Oh. Her mouth must be absolutely minging right now. Just generally, she must be stinking of...
That what struck you the most at this scene?
Yeah, that's all I could think of was she's woke up, she's not It must be absolutely repulsive.
Foul.
And the thing is, that this is where she was sleeping, so it wasn't like that she was caught out and she had to sleep in her car. This was planned.
Yeah.
So why would she not brush her teeth?
I don't know. It's not important to her.
Nope. But now all I can think of the next day is she's stinking.
My concern with this scene is she goes in here and starts saying, where's Greta? She was wanting to leave without knowing what Greta and Fred have said to one another. What the third knows about it.
Yeah, putting her marriage, putting her physical safety in jeopardy.
Yeah. Or anything. You just don't know what the situation's going to be. And she's in there rather blasely. Blasely, is that a word? She's kind of blasé anyway.
Yeah. Instead, she is confused to hear from Fred that Greta has gone. And he shows her the text of the half-packed bags
kind of
that she
sus,
sent
wasn't
him.
it? Immediately pulling out his phone and saying, look at these texts, look, evidence.
Mm-hmm. He tells her that she must have left with the crew, and so she offers her apologies and leaves. She's not happy, but nothing particularly untoward.
Until she steps outside and, looking back in through the window, sees Fred appear to be dancing to a newly pressed record.
Yeah, sleepwalk.
Yes, that's his equivalent of the moonwalk, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's obviously unnerving, and I think at this point she knows what's happened.
I think she clocks immediately because she's gone through the process with him in the earlier conversation.
Yes. And so she returns sometime later with the service underway for the fantastic Mama Banshee.
I remember the night we met. Brandy Savage had just died, and we were just pounding shots for the Macho Man.
Oh, gosh. Excuse me. It's a beautiful story.
Did she have a pacemaker or an implant with a battery? It's a fire safety issue. Anything with a battery will explode in the crematorium furnace.
No? Not that we know of.
Can you sign here to attest to that? My wife, Greta, was supposed to go over all this with
Mrs. H. And Mr. H. Hi. I did want to say that your mother-in-law seemed like an incredible woman, and my condolences. And Fred, hi. I just wanted to double check on Greta.
I'm kind of in the middle of shepherding a grieving family through their final moments with a loved one right now.
Your sweet wife, Greta, is she okay?
It's a crazy thing. She's disappeared, and so I just wanted to...
No, she didn't disappear.
She's gone, and you don't know where she is, and I don't know where she is. So.
The poor girl, Fred. Can we help? I can hog up a posse.
No need to hog up. Excuse me, Mrs. Hoppenstammer. This is Banshee's moment. I'm so very, very, very sorry for the intrusion.
Yes, it is, and thanks for the hog up, and sorry. She was incredible. Hi, Fred. I just was wondering, is there anything that may have indicated that Greta was going to take off like this?
No, Greta decided to leave with the film crew, all right? She said she wanted to leave with the film crew, and she did.
True. Huh. Oh, hi.
Okay. Watching that scene, this must surely be a nod to Columbo's often inappropriate behaviour, his funeral bothering that he does.
Literal funeral bothering he does, yeah.
Because what Charlie's doing here is it's the same. You can wait till this service is over. These are grieving people.
Yes.
Do not interrupt the funeral director here as he's doing his business. It's not their. This is nothing to do with them.
Yeah.
There's no harm in waiting half an hour.
Yeah. So she's done it maybe to get him off balance.
Maybe, but
or just to be inappropriate.
This is very disrespectful.
Yeah. He takes her aside in a different room and she asks how long it takes him to press a vinyl record, but he says to come back when she has a body and to leave. To
me, this was almost like him. He didn't deny anything. He's basically like, get a body.
Yeah.
I did it. I know I did it.
I'm not answering to you, yeah.
But unless you can prove it, then there's nothing else we're doing here.
At this point, Charlie seems to be almost at a bit of a loss, but remembers as she steps outside that she has the call sheet that has the filming locations for today.
Yes, so she heads to this new set.
Fifth Dimension on Highway 17 near Yulee, Florida.
Yeah, and apparently it's a multiverse type of thing. So it's the same movie.
Yes.
But a different, so it's went from this sort of 70s exploitation to, I don't know what is it, back in time for Rome with, or Greek times, I don't know.
I'm not entirely sure.
Anyway.
But Tommy is there and
This is fun.
We can see he's got Greta saved in his phone as gorgeous.
Yes, and he shows her the numerous variations of hey that the drunk Greta sent him the previous night.
Yeah.
And promises to ask around after her, but advises her to talk to Set Deck to see if they saw her leave.
Apparently, though, they have not.
This is Paige, yes, one of the decorators.
Yeah. Charlie asks if they're sure that the blood on the set was fake and is told, of course, it's a movie.
Yes. At this point, Tommy comes back over to confirm that no one has seen Greta all day and says all he is getting or has got is her voicemail.
Yeah, so he says that he has lunch in 20 minutes and he'll come back with her to the funeral home to do a bit of snooping.
Yeah, now she says that she knows that Fred was telling the truth when he said she left with the crew. And although she admits a bit tenuous, the record, this vinyl, this dancing, is bothering her.
It is. We return to the funeral home, and as the Hoppensteimers prepare to leave and Charlie and Tommy head in, Charlie overhears Mrs. Hoppensteimer giving a short speech.
What does that involve?
She says, Hoppensteimers ho, the highway screams with high-octane dreams, and she tells them that Mama Banshee rides with them. She gives the urn a kiss, which is placed on her handlebars, and they ride out.
A little marble there, perhaps, set off.
Well,
Fred then hears Charlie and Tommy enter, and we see him put Greta's phone into a drawer while the pair split up, and I think she goes to the basement. This is the horror movie trope, isn't it? Why are you splitting up?
Of course. Crazy. She spots the things in the battery bin.
She also, but more importantly, I think, she sees a sign on the furnace warning against batteries.
Yeah. She also, I think, heard that in the earlier when she interrupted the meeting.
Yes. So what's in this bin that she recognises?
I don't think she recognises anything in particular. She just sees that there's things in it.
Right.
We know the toothbrush is in there, but she wouldn't recognise Greta's toothbrush.
No.
Or any toothbrush, apparently.
So she heads back upstairs and whispers for Tommy, but has to hide in the open coffin in the service room when Fred enters.
Yes. Whilst she's in there, she spots blood on the light bulb. And when Fred leaves the room, she retrieves that, only to be surprised by him returning suddenly.
Yes, causing her to fall comically from the coffin. And at this point, I think she's no other option but to come out and accuse him of murder, or certainly the disappearance of his wife.
She lays out her theory that although Greta might have left with the film crew, perhaps she was not in her full physical condition at the time.
I think she references Mama Banshee.
She points out to Fred why it can't have been the movie blood, as he suggests, on the light bulb, because they had the sheet up that we saw them take down.
I think she also talks about how Greta has not been answering her phone, and also that she saw him dancing suspiciously to this song. She then doesn't hold back by claiming that Greta had had enough of being trapped in the death house, and the movie shoot allowed him to keep her there forever, trapped in a song of his choosing. She then asks him to look in her eye and calls him a manipulative creep as she challenges him to deny killing Greta. But, hilariously, before he can answer, she gets some mortifying news.
Yes, and this happened last week as well.
Yes.
Where she was undermined as she was trying to lay out her case.
Who does it this time?
This time Tommy comes in saying he's just had a text from Greta, who is on the beach and must have dozed off on the Greyhound.
Yeah, he shows her a picture of her on said beach and assumes all is good and that she must just have, as you say, fallen asleep. He then leaves and Charlie is now in an extremely embarrassing position.
Catch you later.
All right, Tommy, thanks, man. Jeez. Fred, I'm sorry. No, really, please, man, I'm sorry.
She's gone. It's all my fault. I am a creep.
You're not a creep. No. Look, people grow apart. They want different things. Greta, she wanted to move to Miami, okay? And you love it here.
This embalmed death house.
All right, I'm sorry I said that. Really. Believe me, if you knew the wreck that was my life,
My whole family, everyone I ever cared about who's passed on, they're all right here with me.
Yeah, and it's It's beautiful. Like you can feel their presence.
My Uncle Jeffrey, he's right there in that lamp.
What do you mean, a lamp?
His remains, they're in the lamp.
Yeah.
Isn't that beautiful? And my cousin Shirley's over there in the music box.
Hey, Shirley.
Great Uncle Rick is in the stained glass. And Grandma B, well, she's actually in the grandfather clock. And that's my dad, right there in the mug. The rest of his remains we mixed with oil paints. That's him. I like to sit here and have coffee with him in the morning. Greta never really understood.
How could she? She'd probably hit the head and then the road. Belly full of tea. Thanks, Dad. Good.
We then move into the bathroom where there's an amusing moment where Charlie realises that one of the other relatives has been baked into the toilet seat lid.
Yeah, I think she apologises as she hears Ring My Bell on a ringtone.
Ooh.
So she follows it to find Greta's phone in the drawer where we saw Fred place it. She picks it up and we see it is from Hot Tommy.
Yes, and she's also able to guess the...
No, she remembers it. She was told it.
Oh, the dogs thing.
Yes.
So she then sees that the photograph is from 2022.
Yes. But before she can do anything, creepy Fred chloroforms her from behind and he takes the bulb and removes the speck of blood from it.
Would chloroform be part of the embalming process?
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. She then comes around to the stuff of nightmares, finding herself sealed in a coffin. Now, I thought that there was a nice technique here. So,
bit of misdirection.
Well, for a second, it goes black. I thought my stream had frozen.
Right.
So it was very dark and very quiet, and I think it creates that, the atmosphere. It gets you in there. So that was nice.
We're then given the impression that she might be buried outside.
Well, I was a bit confused with that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not entirely clear, but you just have to assume that she was never buried outside.
So she understands what's happening, where she is, and she panics. And we can see Charlie's a very confident and cocky woman.
Yeah,
very self-assured. But this quickly, in that situation, I think, understandably, it's like all of a sudden she's crying and panicking and shouting, "Please let me out! Help! I won't." But as the flames burn just feet away from her, Fred leans over and describes what is going to happen as justice, as it was Charlie who apparently encouraged Greta to leave him.
Yeah, where's he getting that from? Because she showed up to pick her up.
Yeah, he doesn't know what the agreement was about Miami.
No. Yeah, he says this is perfect justice, but Charlie pleads with him to be let out.
He ignores this and starts the coffin moving on the conveyor belt. But in terror, Charlie manages to rock the box to the floor, breaking it open. Yeah, well, that's only wooden. It's like a wooden cardboard.
One, yeah. She then backs into a corner.
Well, here's the thing. I think at that point, because you can feel it. I've said this before. I'm not particularly claustrophobic.
Yeah.
If I was stuck in an elevator, for example, it wouldn't bother me. Someone come and get me out. But that sort of whole potholing where you're confined and you can't move, you can't sit up, and buried in a coffin or anywhere where you can't actually move your body, that would freak me out.
Yeah.
And I think here that when she rocks herself and she falls and opens up, that must be the ultimate orgasmic relief.
Exhilarating.
I don't think you top that. And I think that the adrenaline that must be pumping, like, okay, she's got to face down a killer now. Mm-hmm. But I think, you're happy with that.
You're already a step ahead of where you were a minute ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're going, right, okay, let's go for it.
He advances on her with a weapon and she recalls something from earlier on.
Yes, the battery warning for the furnace, and this I think is very 80s.
Yeah, you get the slow-mo of her throwing it. I'm not sure it's just really 80s. I think this is lifted straight out of Breaking Bad.
Is it?
So he dies, and he plays a character in Breaking Bad and is killed in an explosion, and just before the explosion he shouts, "No!"
Yeah. But Breaking Bad itself, but I mean, like I say, from the 80s, there's been so many of these things where this happens. Fletch, actually. I think at the end of Fletch, in the first one, he throws a lighter into the... Yes.
Never heard of it.
Yep. Oh.
Charlie, at this point, is first to recover after they're both blown off their feet by the resulting explosion.
Yeah, and when we see the chemicals start to explode as well, so it's not just this one blast.
No.
The entire house is starting to collapse, and I have to say, it might have been deliberate, some of the CGI wasn't the most realistic looking.
Sure.
But yeah, so these the sort of the embers.
Don't look too close.
Don't look too close, no.
Yeah. She tries to haul Fred to safety, but he's not having it.
Well, no, I think she is more than reasonable here.
Yeah, she gives him a chance. He won't come, so she just leaves without him, and he returns to the office where his family's remains are.
Well, I think, what we see is he's resigned. He could himself go out, but he's accepting it. In fact, he almost, with Greta now dead, the rest of his family dead, his business dead as well.
Up in flames,
Up in flames.
Literally.
He looks at his father, and I think he's saying to himself, okay, I'm just going to go and be with them now.
Yeah. Yeah, we literally see his father's remains and painting burning. Outside, Charlie, now a bit relieved perhaps to have escaped this situation, reaches for a cigarette.
Yes, she goes from the fire into the frying pan.
Because in the car waiting for her is
Beatrix Hasp, who's a gun and a reminder of unfinished business.
And has come personally.
Yeah.
And that's the end.
It is.
Fitting end for Fred.
Yeah, I think it's what he would have wanted.
Well, this is it. Yeah, he goes out on his own terms almost, which is maybe not fitting.
Well,
he does die.
In a horrible, painful death. Burned alive.
What's your view of his methods of commemorating his lost family members? Would you drink from a cup with your dad's remains in it?
No. I mean, I think
I find all of this stuff macabre. I mean, even folk have like little lockets with ashes, and it's like, no. And how do you even know it's the right ashes?
You see, traditionally my family are all buried, so I've not really considered this. Although
that'll be handy if you need an army in the zombie apocalypse.
Exactly. My wife's father, he was cremated, and my youngest daughter still probably, I don't think, understands that she shares a room at night because he's under her in a box under her bed. Yeah, never get around to doing anything with the ashes.
You should mention that to her one night, like when it's really late.
Might do that.
Yeah,
I keep meaning to that. But she go and get an urn or something, but I think she doesn't. It's just something that's been so long now.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I quite like the idea of being composted.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I genuinely don't care. After I'm dead, I'm dead. It doesn't matter.
Can I have your body?
I don't care. Literally don't care. Not my problem, is how I view it.
Okay.
Any other thoughts on this one before we go into some bits and pieces?
No, just obviously the sort of the Columbo connection or references are.
I'll say a bit more about that.
Will you?
In a minute. You can crack on with your own.
Okay. I've got nothing
bits
more.
And pieces. Okay, so the cast and crew. Natasha Lyonne directed this and got a writing credit, and you obviously talked about her in last season's episodes. The other writer was Alice Dew, again one that you covered last year. She had writing credits on The Night Shift, which got referenced with the vape here, and also The Orpheus Syndrome, which was a collaborative effort with Lyonne again. Nobody lied to Charlie during this episode, which made her power kind of irrelevant. At no point did she call BS on
That's
anybody.
true.
People who were in this episode. Fred Finch was played by Giancarlo Esposito, or Esposito, I think he pronounces it.
Really?
Yeah. Perhaps best known as Gus Fring from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. He's also appeared in things like The Boys, the most recent Captain America movie, Malcolm X, Godfather of Harlem, which half of the cast of this episode are in. Homicide: Life on the Street was where he first rose to prominence, you might say. He's had a 40-plus year career still going strong, perhaps stronger than
He was very good.
He was great. Greta was played by Katie Holmes.
Now, I knew that Kate Holmes was in this episode before I'd watched it. And then I watched it, didn't even think about Katie Holmes, and I looked at IMDb to see who these different characters were, and are you kidding me? Now, we've mentioned this a few times, but it wasn't Party of Five. What was it she was in? Dawson's Creek, yeah. Wasn't my thing, obviously. I never really watched it. I only knew her as, this sort of, bit of a hottie back in the day and Tom Cruise's ex. So in my mind, she's still just, from probably... And saying that, I watched... Last week, I watched her in... I showed my boy, we watched Phone Booth, Colin Farrell, and she did a small part in that. Mm-hmm. But to me, that's what she looked like, right? Now, it's not like someone's got older. I did not recognise her. Now, I'm not sure if she's changed dramatically over the years.
25 years ago.
Yeah, but still, there's plenty of people you recognise, and you go, oh yeah, she's looking a bit older. I did not, I could not have told. I literally watched that and didn't realise that's who it was. Yeah. And I'm not sure, has she been made up to look perhaps a bit different, a bit older?
Well, I think maybe to an extent because of the way she describes her life and being among the dead and having no life. Yeah. It may be that they have, and those red dots in her eyes.
Those red things in her eyes, that distracted me quite a bit. I'm not sure what it was.
I don't know. Maybe one of the film crew thought it was a cool thing to do to her.
Right, okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, I was really shocked when I found out that was Katie Holmes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as you say, she obviously rose to prominence in Dawson's Creek in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah,
she then married Tom Cruise again, like you said. They had a daughter, Suri. They got divorced. She was in Batman Begins, opposite Christian Bale, but her character was recast for the follow-up. Maggie Gyllenhaal got the part in the fantastic The Dark Knight. She's also appeared in things like Ray Donovan. She had a recurring role in that fairly recently. Jack and Jill, is that type of autocorrects?
Probably Jack and
I
Jill.
think it's Jack and Jill.
No, Jack and Jill, I don't know. Who knows?
How I Met Your Mother, she was in that. She is also in multiple productions, played Jackie Kennedy.
Right.
Tommy Sullivan was played by Kevin Corrigan, a native New Yorker with a prolific career, including appearances in things like The Departed, Pineapple Express, Goodfellas, Bad Boys, True Romance, Grounded for Life, and Godfather of Harlem.
He was also in, apparently, with Natasha Lyonne, is it The Slums of Beverly Hills, something like that?
Okay. Might have been.
No, he was.
Okay.
I can't remember the title. I think it's like The Slums.
Along those lines.
Yeah. Not Down and Out in Beverly Hills. You've not seen Down and Out in Beverly Hills, have you?
No.
No, okay.
The director of the movie was played by Waris Aluwalia. He's a frequent collaborator of Wes Anderson, one of my favourites. And he's a jewellery designer. He's got his own studio, the House of Waris, and he's been described as one of the most photographed men in New York.
Really?
He's a long-term friend of Natasha Lyonne, and she once told the New York Times that he is everywhere, kind of like a Zelig, only with far fewer neuroses.
Never seen him before.
Zelig's obviously a Woody Allen film, which I'm sure you've seen. Catherine Narducci played Mrs. Hoppensteimer. She's well known for her work on The Sopranos and Godfather of Harlem. She's also been in Euphoria, The Irishman quite recently, and The Alto Knights, amongst others. The Undertaker in the movie was played by a guy called David Cale, no relation of Charlie, as far as we know. But according to his self-penned IMDb bio, he's a performance artist with a number of successful solo shows.
Oh, there you go.
That usually means that nobody wants to hire you, but maybe in this case it doesn't. He wrote a musical called Floyd and Clea Under the Western Sky. And one of the characters on the crew was called Rock, played by somebody called Spike Einbinder.
Good name.
His birth name was Lena, so maybe changed gender at some point. His sister Hannah has been widely celebrated for her role in Hacks, which is one of the big hits of the last few years. And his parents are the actors Lorraine Newman from SNL, with Coneheads, things like that, lots of voice work, and Chad Einbinder, who was in Murder 1, ER, The Time Traveller's Wife. The location, we talked about this
fantastic
earlier.
Looking place, yeah.
Yes, it's the Armour Steiner Octagon House in New York. It's an 1850s building, likely inspired by Orson Squire Fowler's 1848 book A Home for All, built by Manhattan financier Paul J. Armour. He moved in 1860 and in 1872 sold it to the New York City tea merchant Joseph H. Steiner, hence the name, the Armour Steiner Octagon House. He used it as a summer retreat and developed the current sort of whimsical look with the paint job and so on. After his period of ownership, it went through a number of different hands and it degraded, and it was in a bad way when the National Trust for Historic Preservation acquired it in 1975. And they then sold it back into private ownership in 1978 with a highly conditional deal to the current owners, the Lombardi family. And they began restoration work that is still ongoing.
Not the American football, was it not a Lombardi?
I think it's a different Lombardi family. Okay. Maybe they're connected, I don't know. So they've had it since 1978 and they're still restoring it now. How many years later is that? 45?
Something like that.
More than that.
Yeah, I was on the website for it, and they do tours.
Yes.
It'd be interesting. If I was in the neighbourhood vicinity, I would definitely go along there.
There's a mention of Sleepy Hollow in it, so it must be the same region. As you mentioned while we were talking through the episode, there's clear origins in Ashes to Ashes, the Columbo mystery with Patrick McGowan and Rue McClanahan. She was the victim in that one.
The Golden Girl herself.
I suspect there might also be a nod to the other McGowan episode, Agenda for Murder, and the fact that the Undertaker's called Finch.
Oh, yes.
Because his character in that was Oscar Finch.
He was indeed, yes. Well, maybe. Or maybe we're reading too much into it.
Maybe
not everything is
maybe not everything's Columbo-based, but you never know. The title of the episode, Last Looks, that's an on-set call for the final check of a principal actor's hair and makeup. It's a very literal play on words as well, obviously, with her last look before she was murdered. The music in this episode, some key tunes. We got We'll Meet Again at the start, performed by the Ink Spots. They're pre-70, I think the 50s maybe. Ring My Bell, obviously, Anita Ward, that's going to be stuck in all our heads for quite some time. Sleepwalk by Santo and Johnny, that was in Better Call Saul.
Right.
So it's a throwback or a tie-in maybe to Gus Fring and Giancarlo Esposito's role there. And that's the record that Greta's Remains got pressed into, obviously. And The Nightlife, the outro tune, written by Willie Nelson, performed by Ray Price, perhaps reflects Fred's decision to die in the fire when it says, "Ain't no good life, but it's my life."
Mm-hmm.
Who did crimes this week? Fred killed and cremated Greta, and will he get away with it? Sort of, since he's now toast.
What have we got next week?
Next week, Charlie finds herself under direct pressure from Beatrix Hasp in Whack-A-Mole.
So until then,
cheerio.
Bye-bye.